Welcome back into the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing. I'm Dan Mormon, the editor-in-chief of ColoradoPreps.com. Doug Ottawell with me as always. Box number 3, we've got our track guy, Bobby Reyes. Bobby.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Bobby's my track guy because I venture to say I have not read a whole lot of track content over the course of my life until Bobby came into the fold. And then I'm like, ooh, Bobby's got something up on the site. I got to check this out.
Well, just getting a little inside baseball in the process when there are weekends where things are jammed up, and Doug and I don't want to say we're scrambling to put together a show, but we're probably on a little bit more of a crunch timetable than some days. And you can tell that, Doug just goes to the front page of Colorado Preps, and he's looking at the track stuff, and he's like, man, this is great stuff to talk about. So Bobby does a fantastic job for us.
It's just short of plagiarism, Bobby, but I appreciate it.
No, it's analysis. That's what this show is. It's all analysis.
I am potentially plagiarizing. I'm for sure quoting him often.
Always giving you credit too, Bobby. We still have energy. It's Monday.
Yeah.
So I hope you're going to rest up these next couple of days before we just kill track coverage the way that we did last year.
Oh yeah, I feel like I've already kind of blocked out like Tuesday and Wednesday to just inhale and exhale, because I know once things get started on Thursday morning, it's wild. So
well, for those of us who for everyone who hasn't jumped on coloradopreps.com to read your preview, which is very thorough, very comprehensive, but I mean, really just summarize it the best you can of all the storylines that we are looking forward to this week. What are a couple of the ones that really jump out in your mind?
Oh geez, so I'll start with just saying I feel like I've covered the sport for like 8 or 9 years now, and this is probably one of the most exciting seasons, or most excited I've been for the state meet. And the only season that might be close to this would be 2021, where we had like the 800, the 1600, and the 32 on the boys' side. State records had fallen, but this year it's not just the quality; it's the quantity. It is one of the deepest fields, particularly in the distance events, that I've ever seen. And this is across the entire country. It's just Colorado is on a whole other level. So in terms of, I'd say, trying to find some golden nuggets here to make sure you don't miss. The boys 4A 1600 meter is, in my opinion, probably going to be the race of the weekend, and that's on Saturday. I think right around that 11 a.m. time slot, which is just perfect for racing. But 12 guys have run between 406 and 412, which has never been done. This is literally the deepest field in Colorado history. On Saturday, I even did a little bit of homework. I was like, okay, like, what did it even take to qualify for state this year in 4A for the 16? And that was 414. To kind of give a little context to that, in 2018, 414 won state in this event. And this year, 414 barely gets you into the top 18. That's how incredibly deep this year is. Jay McDonald just popped a 406 at St. Vrain, which was a massive, massive jump for him. You've got Quinn Sullivan, Oliver Horton, Rocco Culpepper, who's the defending state champ, Aiden LaRue, Ryder Keaton, Xavier Campos. All of these guys have run 409 or faster, which is I know altitude conversions are a topic of discussion. Everyone wants to know how much faster would you run at sea level, just to kind of use the NCAA, who they kind of say 6 to 7 seconds. In another perspective here, to qualify for the Colorado State meet in 4A, you have to have run right around 408 at a lower elevated state. Most states, that wins a state title, not in Colorado.
No. And that's what makes these 3 days fun, so much fun. I mean, I was actually going back and looking at some of last year's stuff, which we're going to get into in a second. But you talked about the 800, the 1600, and the 3200 records all falling in 2021. Mm-hmm. What records are in the most danger of falling this weekend?
I had mixed feelings about this, because I'd say the 3200 meter, I mean, if we're talking about those distance events, the 3200 meter and 4 are actually across the board. But this year, I feel 3 or 4 guys have already broken 9 minutes, and Parker Wolf has run, I believe it was like 8:55 and change, like 8:55.94, something like that. Whereas Oliver Horton a month and a half ago ran 8:56.0 or 8:56.1. Yeah, there we got Oliver. And it was actually that exact race, and he had guys like Hunter Robbie ride on his tail. So I feel like the 3200 meters in most danger of falling if these guys team up and go at it, to race each other, to run a fast course, to run a fast race, because obviously they want to win state. That's the whole point. And so I feel like that will affect strategy. The mile I feel is in danger, but that's another one that I feel like Harrison Witt's 404 is insane. It's otherworldly, as his 148.5. But another one that I would look at to potentially fall, and this is maybe a re-breaking, would be the 300 hurdles, because Owen Hayes, about a month and a half ago at Pomona, ran 36.14, which broke a 25-year-old state record. At the time, I believe that was the third oldest state record on the books. And he hasn't run the race, that event, since then. But I feel like he's been working on some other things, kind of perfecting things. And the reason why I feel like that's another one that could definitely fall is he runs it twice. He's going to have the prelims and he's going to have the finals. And in the finals, at state, you just want to win the meet, or you just want to win the race. The whole point is to win state. So he could actually go after this in the prelims, which, in my opinion, that's another reason to keep an eye on those 300-meter prelims, 300-meter hurdle prelims, because we've seen it before. I think it was 2019. Emily Sloan and Anna Hall both broke the state meet record, or the state record, actually 5 minutes apart from each other. This is when Valor was 4A, and they both did that in the prelims, because at the finals they just want to win the race. You need that 10 points for your team. And for Owen, I kind of feel like this is teeing up to be the same thing here, where I feel like the prelims could be where he actually goes after it and breaks his state record. Because when he did run that 36.14, I did mention this, he kind of he stuttered over the last hurdle, which the way I read that is there's room for improvement. And I think he knows this too, because we talked a little bit afterwards, but there's room for him to run faster. So that 300 hurdle one is definitely another one to keep an eye on.
Bobby, when you look at some of the races specifically, or fields of kids, whether that's the sprints, or you obviously mentioned the 1600, what stands to be the most competitive? Maybe the races that have the, hey, we don't know who's going to win, because it could be any number of 4 or 5 kids or teams.
Mm-hmm. Definitely that boys 4A 16. In my mind, like, I don't see one specific favorite runner. Same thing with the boys 5A distance. There isn't really one favorite. There are favorites. There's multiple guys. And what's been exciting with the season is you've seen multiple guys kind of come out of the woods here. Like, as I mentioned, Jay McDonald just ran 406. Previously, he hadn't run under, I believe, 412 or 413. And before that, we're thinking, okay, Rocco Culpepper is the defending state champ. Quinn Sullivan just ran a 149 in the 800. So I don't see any one guy. And that's why, I kind of touched on that 4A 16, because there, like, anyone who watched the St. Vrain Friday night, there were a dozen guys still in the race with about a lap to go. And I really feel like that's something we're going to see in the 4A 16, as well as the 5A in the 5A mile as well. We've got Thunder Ridge's Ben Lee, who is the defending state champ. He's Mountain Vista's Ben Adams, Fort Collins Cadell Ruthven, Liam Folk from Heritage. These are all guys who've run between 408 and 410. And so it's kind of, what's exciting is not knowing. as much as that induces some anxiety here, it's not having a favorite to win a state title means everything is going to happen on the track in front of us. We're going to see strategies play out, and it depends on how these guys prepare for this. But that's why, like I've been mentioning over and over, like, it's just exciting because you don't know what's going to happen.
When I've always told people in my time doing this, Bobby, like, track and field was always one of the tougher events for me to cover, because from a writing standpoint, if you're limited on space, like, you only have so much space that you can talk about what's going on. So how do you prioritize all of this so that you can put together the best coverage that you can? Because I'll tell you flat out, and I believe this going to last year, is no one covered state track and field like we did at Colorado Preps, and that's all because of you. So how do you prioritize it so that we're getting that benefit?
First, thank you. But I feel like this is like this ongoing challenge every year, because the challenging, like you mentioned with track and field, is it's different every year. It's not the same, so you're not looking in the same spot every year. And I always feel like the state track meet is always extremely stressful, but so exciting, because there is something going on in every corner of Jeffco Stadium. And I'll be over by the pole vault as an example, and I hear screaming going on at the discus, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was over there. But it takes you really have to kind of dive in and do a lot of homework. And I feel like what helps me a lot is, doing this week in and week out during the season, you kind of get to see these athletes perform. You can kind of start anticipating things. Like, one thing I didn't mention was the 5A girl sprints with Addison Smith from Fossil Ridge, who I think she's going to sweep the 1 and the 2, or that's my guess, just because she was a runner-up last year. and just knowing she's got that fire this year. But it's really just kind of seeing these athletes throughout the season and then sort of getting to know them. And, you kind of get to anticipate what's going to happen out there. And so I really do have to dive in a lot of like Max Prep's rankings pretty much every week and see who's moving, because every week, especially this week, I mean, this season, it's just been something new every week. There has been something I have not foreseen. And that's something I'll be doing here for the rest of the day and the next couple of days. Is just doing some homework heading into the state meet, because you want to be there, you want to capture this stuff, and specifically for the athletes themselves this is capturing moments for them and their families. And so I kind of feel a bit of a heart tug, I guess, on this for me, because I want to be the guy who's actually delivering that kind of content of them capturing these moments.
And especially at those, I was looking at those 1A and 2A classifications from last year. Every event matters because those team races are incredibly tight.
Yep.
Can we expect the same, definitely in those lower classes this year, but is there going to be a gap that closes somewhere, in 3A, 4A, and 5A? Because TCA feels like they could run away with things like always, which is going to put them up to 4A next year if that's the case. And
yeah, do you want that? Yeah,
me being a Manitou Springs guy, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it'll be interesting because we're talking about individuals, but we're also talking about 10 points, 8 points, 6 points, which are going to be a huge difference. Going into some of the smaller distances here. Smaller distance. I mean, lower classifications. Roxy Unruh, girls sprints. I believe she's 2A, is the defending state champion, the 1, the 2, and the 4. But that's going to be 30 points if she can pick that up is huge. However, she's sitting number 2, I believe, in the 2 and the 4, and she's tied for number 1 in the 1. These points are huge, because you're talking about single digits. And I feel like the last few years in a row, we have seen some of these really, really tight races go down to the 4x4. And I would imagine for those coaches, that's just anxiety overload, but it's really exciting from a coverage standpoint, because then you get to see the stands come alive, because everyone knows finishing first or finishing fourth or finishing sixth, like the points are huge. And I kind of hope it comes down to that for a handful of team races, because I can kind of see a few of these team races I really feel like are going to come down the 4x4s, at least the tail end of Saturday's action.
Bobby, we'll put you on the spot here. You've mentioned that this year you feel like is one of the deepest meets that we've had in quite some time, just in terms of, the top level talent is kind of ubiquitous. It's everywhere. If you had to look into your crystal ball and say who's going to be the people that we're talking about, 10 years, 20 years from now, your Anna Halls, your Yolanda Johnson, your Dior Halls, Jeremy Dodson, Melanie Fairchild, some of the names that are kind of synonymous with Colorado track and field excellent, who throw out some names that we could be talking about in the same vein in the future.
Ooh, so I have a history on this one, but I'm going to go with Addie Ritzenhein coming out of Niwot. She's looking at defending her state titles in the 32 to 16 and probably picking up some points there in that 8 for Niwot. But for those of you who don't know Addie Ritzenhein, both of her parents were national caliber athletes in high school and college. Her father was a former American record holder in the 5,000. He was a few years older than me in high school, but I definitely followed his career as a high school national champ, college national champ, U.S. Olympian. But Addie, I've had the privilege of covering her entire high school career. And one thing I've noticed with her, which I can remember seeing out of her parents, is just such a calm and cool, collected demeanor, which I really feel for an athlete. You really have to have that. If you lose a race or maybe you don't have the best day, you have to kind of find a way to just turn it off, and there's going to be another day. I remember seeing Anna Hall do the same thing her junior and senior year back in Valor, and not knowing at the time that she was going to be, a world champion or an Olympian, but there was definitely such a casualness to how they approach these things. Obviously, they're very meticulous with, what they're doing before and after and on the track, but I've noticed that with Addie, and I've kind of seen a little bit of that with her little brother Jude, who's another guy who's going to be in that 4A race. Fastest freshman in the country is around 4:10. But I feel like Addie Ritzenhein would definitely be a name that you definitely want to remember. Or if you have the opportunity to watch her race, this is going to be her farewell tour. It's her senior year. I really feel like she's got a huge college career in front of her and beyond. So,
well, my problem there is, one, she was a freshman like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
For those of us who have been doing this for a while and tracking her in cross country and track. And then The other one that I want to point out, because I was this is, for whatever reason, this is always going to be the story that jumps out to me. Does the field for the 3A girls 3,200 have even a whiff of a prayer with the way that Delaney Reuter wants to bounce back after DQing in that last year?
Kind of, I mentioned kind of a lot of these performances, a lot of these athletes, I get like little tugs of my heart because you see them specifically, when you cover week in, week out, or throughout their high school career, you just become a fan. And last year, I cannot think of a harsher action for a distance runner. I was a distance runner in high school. I can't
Wasn't
imagine.
it like eight of those girls got DQ'd? It was a big number.
Yeah, there was a handful because it was a lane violation. They came in a little early. I just can't imagine running 8 laps at the state championships, and particularly for Delaney, she wins by nearly half a lap, and then you find out, oh, I got DQ'd. But it was such a heartfelt moment because I remember second place even giving her the medal, and it was sort of like obviously an unofficial win on her part, but she came back. I remember she raged the next day in the 16 and just kind of got redemption there a bit. But I would imagine for her, officially winning that 32 is probably going to have a little bit of a extra special meaning for her this year. She is a favorite going into the event by, I think she's run 10:20, which is the second fastest time among all classifications. But I would imagine there's going to be a little bit of it's going to be in a handful of athletes' minds when they're starting that 32 for 3A. Like, okay, let's make sure we don't jump in on the lane here.
How about our guy Oliver Horton? I mean, he's a name I'll always remember primarily because of your story about him, checking his watch.
Not wearing a watch.
Kind of. Well, yeah, but the old, he was showing I don't need one.
Yeah. He was like, I don't need one. Oliver, looking at that 4A landscape here, he's undefeated. And the craziest thing is he's not the fastest. He doesn't have the fastest seed in the 16, but he just popped a 409 flat. He is the fastest seed in the 32 with that 856 and change. He's the second fastest, second fastest 3,200 meter on Colorado soil, but he is officially the fastest 3,200 meter runner in Colorado history. He ran 8:38 at Arcadia, which is a lower elevation, but that makes him the fastest 2-miler in Colorado history, which for Colorado has a very long history of incredible distance runners. So for him to be in that kind of company or be in front of that company is huge. And he's just a junior. Like, that's another thing that makes me very excited looking in front of me for the next few days. But then for next year is Oliver is going to come back next year. How much faster does he run? Quinn Sullivan from Niwot has run 149.8. He's coming back next year. Guys like Jude Ritzenheiner coming back next year. There's so much to be excited about. But yeah, kind of sticking on Oliver, what's interesting with him is the undefeated part. I feel like there is something to winning. Regardless of how fast or how slow, there is something to winning. And heading into Jeffco undefeated, I know he's got the target on his back. Obviously he was the state cross country champion, but how that 3,200 meter plays out, how that 1,600 plays out is going to be just, we're not going to know until we see strategy start evolving, as the race unfolds. But yeah, again, like just kind of going on the many favorites, I think he's one of them, but he kind of definitely stands a little bit above the rest just with that undefeated streak and how fast he's run.
For Bobby's full preview, check out coloradopreps.com. He hosts his weekly track and field and cross country podcast, Spiked Up, which we feature on the front page of our site every week when he gets it to me. Bobby, it's 3 days of fun coming up. I should be there Friday and Saturday to help run whatever support you need. I like being the guy in this environment to where I may run the day to day, but I can just look at you and say, what do you need from me? Besides staying out of your way, what do you need me to do for you? I like being in that role. I'll be at 1A baseball on Friday, so I'll be right down the road, or on Thursday, so I'll be right down the road. But yeah, man, 3 full days of track and field coverage. It's going to be a blast.
Yep, I'm pretty sure I'll be completely sunburnt by Saturday afternoon. So
I can bring you sunscreen. That's how I can help. I can bring you sunscreen.
That is the slowest guy on the show. I appreciate how you cover fast, Bobby. It's going to be a great weekend, and I know I'm going to get the ins and out from you.
Cool. Yes, definitely. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it, and I'll see you probably Friday.
Cool. See you guys.
All right. And on top of all that, we do have more, Doug. I mean, state track is going to dominate the headlines this week. We do have more to talk about. We're going to get into what other championships are going to be decided ahead of this weekend right after this. This is the Colorado Prep Show presented by Upswing.